It's 7 p.m. Friday, June 7th, here in Seoul.
And these are the top stories at this hour. President Moon Jae-in will depart for his state visit to Finland, Norway, and Sweden on Sunday, aiming to further develop ties with the Scandinavian nations and promote his peace campaign on the Korean peninsula.
More bodies are found in Hungary following last week's deadly tourist boat sinking. 9 people are still missing, but conditions on the Danube are too dangerous to start lifting the boat out of the water.
The IMF says the ongoing U.S.-China trade war threatens to reduce global GDP by nearly $500 billion, urging the world's 2 leading economies to resolve their dispute.
And in football, the women's national team and under-20s face tough matches in their respective World Cups. NEWSCENTER begins now.
Good evening and welcome to Arirang News Center. Live from Seoul, I'm Han Daeun.
And I'm Noaram. Thank you as always for joining us this evening. Let's begin with President Moon Jae-in's upcoming trip to Northern Europe. He will depart for 3 Nordic nations on Sunday.
His state visit will focus on boosting relations on multiple fronts, as well as garnering support for the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula. Shin Se-min starts us off.
The president's 8-day, 3-nation tour to Finland, Norway, and Sweden kicks off this Sunday with a focus of boosting ties with the Northern Europe nations on IT, peace, and welfare. President Moon Jae-in's first stop, Finland. Becoming the 2nd Korean president to be hosted as a state guest, President Moon will hold summit meetings with his Finnish counterpart, President Sauli Niinisto, where the two will exchange their experiences on revitalizing the economy through innovative startups. Finland is known as the birthplace for tech titans like Nokia, so the 2 leaders hope to come up with ways to establish strong foundations for the 4th industrial revolution, including the next generation communications like 5G and 6G and artificial intelligence. From the 11th until the 13th, the president will be in Norway. On his schedule in Oslo is a keynote speech at a forum at the University of Oslo on peace on the Korean peninsula. It is all the more significant in that it's taking place where the late former President Kim Dae-jung was awarded with Nobel Peace Prize for his work for democracy and human rights and peace and reconciliation with North Korea. With the speech coming in time for the 1-year anniversary of the first North Korea-U.S. summit last June in Singapore, expectations are that the South Korean leader may unveil his vision for the establishment of peace on the peninsula. President Moon's trip also comes around on the 60th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between the 2 nations. The president and Norwegian Prime Minister Erna Solberg are expected to discuss ways to upgrade cooperation on the energy front, including hydrogen power. President Moon's last destination is Sweden, where he will address the Swedish parliament. Scheduled during his stay there is a summit meeting with Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven. The leaders are set to discuss promoting cooperation on startups, ICT, and biohealth, as well as ways to shape Korea to become an inclusive nation.
Through the trip, we hope to reassure cooperation with the respective nations on expanding a cooperative foundation to realize innovative growth and become an inclusive nation, one of the administration's primary goals, while also reassuring cooperation on completely denuclearizing the Korean peninsula and establishing lasting peace in the region.
The Blue House expressed hope that through the trip this time, President Moon can garner support for his peace drive and that the Nordic model expanded to try and tackle the impasse of the denuclearization talks on the Korean peninsula. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
A senior official at the Blue House says he is cautiously optimistic that a 4th inter-Korean summit could be held soon. When asked by reporters on Friday whether it could happen ahead of a planned South Korea-U.S. summit at the end of this month, he said that Seoul is continuing to reach out to Pyongyang to discuss the matter. He also highlighted that U.S. President Donald Trump is repeatedly emphasizing the importance of dialogue with the North. And although arranging talks with North Korea is difficult, the official said the government is busy working on it. Seoul has appointed Vice Unification Minister Suh Ho as the new South Korean chief of the Inter-Korean Liaison Office. The Unification Ministry also said it's considering calling off weekly meetings between the South and North Korean directors of the Joint Liaison Office, mostly because the North's representative hasn't shown up since February after the Hanoi summit fell apart. The ministry will propose to North Korean directors at their next meeting that the two sides only meet when necessary from now on. Now to the latest on recovery operations in Budapest. 3 more bodies were found on Thursday local time, and authorities are still struggling to find ways to safely salvage the boat. Our Lee Min-sun now joins us on the line. Min-sun, what's the latest?
Right, so more bodies are found on Thursday local time. 2 South Korean passengers and 1 Hungarian crew member were found a few kilometers downstream from the site where the tourist boat capsized last week. Now the death toll stands at 19. Only 7 people out of 35 that were on the boat survived the sinking, and 9 people are still missing. Many of the missing bodies are presumed to be inside the wreck. The search operation continues at the site, but because of high waters and strong currents, divers are having difficulty. Seoul's response team in Hungary will deploy a drone that they brought from Korea to conduct more close-up search operations in suspicious areas, including where the latest bodies were found. And the search area will be expanded to cover 100 kilometers down the river.
Min-sun, while the search operation continues, the rescue team has been also working on salvaging the boat. What's the progress there?
Since the rescue team shifted focus to salvaging the boat, divers have been conducting preparation work. They installed wires on the stern side of the boat before wrapping chains and ropes around it so it can be raised. The rescue team is aiming to complete the binding work by today. While carefully carrying out the plan, South Korean and Hungarian rescue teams are making sure that bodies inside the boat are not lost during the salvaging process. The biggest crane in Eastern Europe has been standing ready nearby to salvage the wreckage, but has not been able to access the accident site due to unsafe water levels. The water level was at 464 centimeters this morning, but a bit higher than the day before, and that's due to melted snow from the Alps. But the water level is expected to decrease over the weekend and reach a safe level at least by Monday. That will make rescue work easier. The team is also devising various ways to bring the crane to the accident site, including taking it apart to pass through the bridge. The team plans to use the crane to salvage the boat as early as Saturday night or Sunday morning at the latest. That's all from me at this hour, but I will keep you updated.
Thank you to our Lee Min-sun reporting there. Now, shifting gears, the IMF is warning the United States that its escalating trade dispute with China could pose substantial risks to the American economy. The IMF also said the trade war could wipe nearly $500 billion off global GDP next year. Lee Seung-jae reports.
With the trade war raging between the United States and China, the head of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, warned on Thursday that it could have substantial risks for the U.S. and global economy.
To agree to eliminate the distortions that put a brake on growth, and that not only will affect the economy of those countries directly impacted, but will also have spillover effects way beyond the shores of those countries. And we very strongly believe that a better integrated international trading system is actually conducive to that sustainable, strong and balanced growth that is so much needed. And as I've said many times, nobody wins a trade war and everybody suffers.
Speaking in Washington, Lagarde said in order for the global economy to function smoothly, it needs to be more open, more stable, and more transparent.
We believe that for the global economy to actually function well, it needs to be able to rely on a more open, more stable, more transparent, more predictable, and rules-based international trade system. And as such, it will be essential for the US and all its trading partners, including the likes of China, Mexico, and others, to agree on a new system
Meanwhile, in a review of U.S. policies, the international lender said the U.S. economy is on track to grow 2.6% this year, up from its previous growth forecast of 2.3% made in April, adding it was boosted by easy financial market conditions. However, the IMF says a number of factors threatened this positive outlook, and it called on the Federal Reserve to hold off on interest rate hikes, which would put the brakes on growth. The IMF's warning came as it released a grim outlook on the global impact of the trade war. Earlier this week, the IMF chief said in a briefing note for the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors that taxing all trade between the world's two largest economies would wipe $455 billion off global GDP next year, an amount of loss larger than South Africa's entire economy. Lagarde also criticized the Trump administration's efforts to overhaul the global trade relationship by continuing to raise tariffs, stressing the importance of resolving the trade war with Beijing. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Memory chip prices are set to continue a downward trend and fall even more sharply in the later half of this year. Kim Hye-sung with the details.
Prices of DRAM, a type of memory used in PC, servers, and mobile devices, are expected to fall more sharply in the latter half of this year amid the escalating U.S.-China trade spat. Global market research company DRAM Exchange said Thursday it forecast DRAM average selling prices to fall by 10 to 15% in the third quarter, down from its previous forecast of a 10% decline. For the fourth quarter, it expects a 10% decline, much bigger than the 2 to 5% drop previously forecast. This projection comes amid plunging chip prices in the first half of this year. The average price of 8 gigabit DDR4 DRAM, a benchmark price for the category, fell 6% on month to $3.7 in May. That's about half the level of a historic high of $8.2 recorded last September. DRAM Exchange said as the U.S. ban on Huawei continues to spread, the Chinese tech company's shipments of smartphone and server products could drop in the next 2 to 3 quarters, and that the U.S.-China trade war could potentially lead to global data centers pulling back on capital expenditures, driving down chip demand. The report added that a price rebound in 2020 is possible, although it's far from a guarantee. The continued slump in DRAM prices is expected to weigh on Korean exports and the profitability of South Korean chip makers. Both Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix posted sluggish first-quarter earnings, with profits down 60% and 69% on year, respectively, as their revenue from DRAMs and NAND flash chips plunged on falling global demand and chip prices. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
Amid growing tension between the United States and China on the economic front, the U.S. for the first time has officially recognized Taiwan as a sovereign country. While its first agreement with Beijing forbids them to do so, Washington's move is seen as a deliberate one. Lee Ji-won with more.
In the Defense Department's first Indo-Pacific Strategy Report, the U.S. has called Taiwan a sovereign state. Released earlier this month, the report says the Defense Department has taken steps to expand its partnerships with 4 countries, including Taiwan. It then said that the democracies in these countries are reliable and that they help actively to uphold a free and open international order. It's the first time the U.S. has called Taiwan a country in such an official document. The report also gives Taiwan a separate section where it says it'll continue pursuing strong ties with Taiwan so that it remains secure, confident, and free from what the report calls coercion or China's pressure to unify. According to Hong Kong's South China Morning Post, the Defense Department did not respond to questions about its use of language or any intended purpose or message. The U.S., however, had not previously recognized Taiwan as a sovereign state because it had agreed not to when it formally recognized the People's Republic of China in 1979. The same year, Congress had passed a Taiwan Relations Act, granting Taiwan the same privileges as a sovereign nation and obligating Washington to help Taiwan defend itself. Washington's move thus prompts speculation that it'll no longer abide by the so-called One China policy, under which it had acknowledged Beijing's position that there is only one Chinese government. Some experts say such a move will only get more upfront.
We cannot be certain that the report means Washington is totally scrapping the One China policy. But we can see that the U.S. will work in all fronts to stop the growth of China's power. And I've heard from experts in Washington that Taiwan will be a major card in doing so.
This comes as Taiwan has confirmed that it plans to purchase over $2 billion worth of air defense and anti-tank missile systems, further irritating Beijing. With the two great powers fighting for hegemony, Kim says South Korea may be hit harder than it had been before when it deployed the American missile defense system THAAD on its soil, for which China retaliated economically. Kim called for wise diplomacy from Seoul to overcome the situation. 이지원, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics reportedly has the third highest number of patents related to artificial intelligence, showing that competition over AI patents is getting fiercer. Yoon Jung-min reports.
South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics holds the third highest number of patents related to artificial intelligence. According to a German market research firm IPlytics, Samsung owned 11,243 patents on AI technology as of January this year. The top patent holder is U.S. software giant Microsoft with 18,365 patents, followed by U.S. information technology firm IBM with more than 15,000. Qualcomm and Google were also ranked among the top 5. Out of the top 10 AI-related patent owners, 5 were U.S. companies, 2 were Japanese, 1 German, and 1 Dutch. Samsung was the only South Korean company on the list. Since last August, Samsung has been pushing for future growth engines including AI, 5G, and bio-industries, establishing AI research centers in 7 cities around the world. The tech giant is focusing on expanding the AI capacity on a wide range of its products from smartphones to home appliances. The market researcher says in the 10 years since 2008, AI patent applications have increased more than threefold to over 78,000 per year. In terms of filing applications, the U.S., China, and Europe top the figures, indicating a higher level of research activity. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Carmakers Fiat Chrysler and Renault have pulled the plug on their proposed multi-billion-dollar merger. The deal apparently didn't get the support it needed from the French government. Hong Yu with the details.
Fiat Chrysler's proposed merger with Renault, which could have created the world's third-largest automobile company, has collapsed on Wednesday. In a statement, the Italian-American car maker said it has become clear that the political conditions in France do not currently exist for such a combination to proceed successfully. Its plan to join forces with Renault collapsed after the French government, Renault's biggest shareholder, wasn't ready to sign off on a deal. The French government had initially supported the proposal because of the money that could be saved by sharing research, purchasing, and other activities. But Renault's powerful labor union objected to a deal, worrying it could lead to layoffs if Fiat has the power to favor operations in Italy over France. And the French government said it wouldn't support a 50-50 merger proposal unless Nissan, Renault's partner in the world's biggest auto alliance, guaranteed that its alliance with Renault would continue after the merger. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire said that an agreement could not be reached between all partners in the negotiations on the government's conditions for a deal. He requested more time, saying there was no need to rush through a deal and that the French government wants this merger to happen.
And finally, we remain open to any industrial consolidation opportunity, but once again come without rushing in order to guarantee the industrial interest of Renault and the French nation.
The merger would have saved the car makers more than $5.6 billion a year. But Fiat walked away to look for another option as they had been urging Renault to do a quick deal. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
Some sports news now, and South Korea has 2 football matches lined up for the weekend in Europe, and both are set to be as tough as they come. The women's national football team will play in the opening match of the 2019 Women's World Cup against host nation France in Paris at 9 p.m. Friday local time. For our viewers here, that's 4 a.m. Saturday Korea time. It'll be a daunting challenge as their first match of the campaign, as France are ranked number 4 in the world and have the home advantage. Meanwhile, in Poland, South Korea's under-20s will face Senegal, who are so far undefeated in their under-20 World Cup campaign. The quarter-final match will kick off at 8:30 p.m. Saturday local time or 3:30 a.m. Sunday Korea time. If South Korea win, they will reach their first semi-finals since 1983.
The queen of South Korean figure skating, Kim Yeon-ah, who officially retired about 5 years ago, is back on the ice for some highly anticipated performances in Seoul. Our Won Jung-hwan has this report.
One of South Korea's all-time favorite athletes is returning to the arena. The 11th edition of the annual All That Skate ice skating show is here, and the star of this year's gala is Olympic champion Kim Yeon-ah. Considering her last performance at the 2018 All That Skate show was just a 3-minute special guest appearance, it will mark her first proper return to Korean soil in almost 5 years.
I'm looking forward to working with skaters who are actively performing on the global stage and excited to see how we can create harmony between us. I'm very happy to show our performances to the fans who have been waiting for us.
While she only performed to 1 song last year, this year she has prepared 2 gala programs for the fans.
First, I chose The Dark Rise. It's gypsy-style music from Russia. It expresses the feelings of sorrow and joy together. I think the audience can focus on those aspects when I am performing. And for the issue program, we have mixed the acoustic and remix version together on the original pop music. So I think the audience can have some fun and enjoy the program.
The theme of the 2019 All That Skate event is Move Me, and one of the 2 directors who has joined this ice skating program for the first time says she wants to see the audience move along with the skaters.
Well, the theme of the show is Move Me, and it's taken from our opening piece of music, which is Movement by Hozier. And the reason we chose it is because the lyrics fit perfectly for skaters. It's about how we speak through our movement and we connect with the audience through our movement. And it's that interaction from the public to the skater and back. So when you move me.
The ice show, which runs until this Saturday, also features young Korean figure skaters such as Choi Da-bin, Kim Ye-rim, and Lee Mun-soo, alongside current world-class global skaters such as jump machine Nathan Chen and Pyeongchang silver medalist Shoma Uno. And as well as the ice show by world-class skaters, there are musical performances by Korean artists such as Mamamoo and Sweet Sorrow and the Barbarettes. Won Jung-hwan, Arirang News.
K-pop sensations BTS and their chief producer have clinched memberships to the U.S. Recording Academy, the group that chooses the annual Grammy Awards winners. Our Kim Mo-kyun tells us more.
BTS have been invited to join the U.S. Recording Academy, an elite group of pop music figures, most well known for voting for the Grammy Awards. The Los Angeles-based group announced the list of 1,340 people in the music industry that have been invited to be members on Thursday. All 7 members of the boy band were invited as voting members, while the chief executive of the record label Big Hit Entertainment, Bang Si-hyuk, was invited to be a professional member of the Academy. Since 1959, the Recording Academy has hosted the Grammy Awards every year to recognize the top talents in the music industry. The boy band and Bang will now be able to cast their votes for the awards from 2020 and onward. Big Hit Entertainment said the Academy's decision seems to reflect the impact and contribution BTS and Bang have made on the global music scene. Earlier this year, Bang made Billboard's 2019 list of international power players, as well as the U.S. magazine Variety's list of international music leaders. BTS, meanwhile, have been making history in the U.S. pop market since 2017. And it's not just the globe that BTS are making a mark. Songs of the 7-member boy band will now be heard in outer space in 2024 as part of NASA's playlist on its voyage to the moon. NASA announced that the boy band songs Moonchild, Microcosmos, and 134340 made the list. The 3 space-themed songs were selected through the recommendations from Twitter. NASA's 2014 moon mission had been codenamed Artemis and will see the first female astronaut land on the moon. Kim Mo-kyan, Arirang News.
South Korea's biggest tourism exhibition has kicked off in southern Seoul, drawing over 1,000 travel agencies from all across the globe. Our Kan Young-woo was at the opening ceremony.
South Korea's biggest travel exhibition, Seoul International Tourism Industry Fair 2019, has brought some 1,300 travel agencies from 50 countries to the capital city.
They say the tourism industry is an industry that does not cause pollution. I believe the tourism industry can provide a breakthrough for our economy in times of slow growth.
Showcasing both domestic and overseas tourism, the exhibition gives information about travel destinations and what tourists can expect when they arrive. The Seoul Metropolitan Government hopes the fair can expand South Korea's tourism industry and create more jobs in the field.
The fair aims to build business platforms for inbound, outbound, and intra-bound companies, so it raises awareness of South Korean tourism for travelers around the world while also contributing to developing Seoul's tourism industry at the same time.
Aside from over 500 promotional booths run by some 40 nations, government agencies, and airlines, 230 tables are set up for private travel agencies and tour companies.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity for any countries to participate in this kind of fair because it is give you the opportunity to present your culture, heritage, and especially the touristic attractions of individual country.
We also get more connections to other countries and we make more friends also.
Combining the Seoul International Travel Mart and the Korea World Travel Fair for the first time, South Korea's biggest tourism exhibition will run through Sunday at COEX Convention Center in southern Seoul. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in has told civil servants that their creativity and proactiveness are keys to pioneering what he called a new era. The remark came in a luncheon with government officials earlier today to thank them for their work. He also emphasized that policies need to take the public's needs into account. China's Huawei has signed a deal with Russian telecom firm MTS to develop 5G technology in Russia. The deal was agreed Thursday during Chinese President Xi Jinping's trip to the country. Both firms said they will begin developing 5G networks in Russia over the next year. Huawei has been seeking deals with firms outside the U.S. as Washington continues its isolation campaign against the Chinese tech giant. The White House says it's pushing ahead with a plan to impose tariffs on Mexican imports next week to pressure Mexico to stop illegal immigration into the U.S. The comments by Press Secretary Sarah Sanders came after U.S. and Mexican officials failed to reach a deal on averting the tariffs during talks on Thursday. The negotiations are set to continue on Friday. Meanwhile, Mexico has stepped up security along its border with Guatemala amid mounting pressure from President Trump. Those found drunk driving will face stronger punishment starting at the end of this month. Violators with a blood alcohol content level of 0.03% or higher will have their licenses suspended, while those found with a level of 0.08% or higher will have their licenses revoked. Police also plan to conduct more sobriety tests in the morning. Those found guilty of drunk driving could face up to a year in jail or fines of up to $4,300. That has been your 3-minute news flash. Let's now look at some digital media content available on Arirang social media platforms.
And today we have another episode of Koreator with Ali from South Africa, sharing with us some tips on how to learn Korean.
Hi everybody, I'm Ali. I'm from South Africa, living in the UK, and I love the Korean language. My main motivation for learning Korean was to be able to connect with more and more people. The Korean culture is so rich in history and in music, art and everything, and to be able to speak to more people in their language and learn about their culture and their history from their perspective, it just inspires me to keep learning more and more and more, because there's never enough to learn. There's always so much to learn in the Korean language, so that is my main motivation. You should try and learn Korean like a baby. Babies don't have a language that they translate in and out from. They don't go, well, in my language, this is pencil case. They don't do that. They just look at it and are told what that is, and they absorb it naturally. And obviously that's a lot harder to do when you're a full-grown adult.
Hold on. I don't remember this one.
But if you try to not translate back into your native language, that will really help you for conversation, because especially with speed, you don't have to keep translating back into your language. So che 의자, you know, like this kind of thing. You just know, oh, 저건 의자야. So that's how I learned it a lot. Another tip I have is to learn some Hanja. So Hanja underlies a lot of Korean vocabulary, and if you learn a few, you'll be able to guess words that you've never heard before, because you'll know the components that make them up. So for example, the words for above and below. So sang and ha. Sang means above, and if you say 지상, that means above ground. But if you put ha after 지, you get 지하, which is basement. And so if you learn just a few Hanja, you'll be able to guess lots of words. Definitely learn Hanja. I think the one I use the most is 아이고. To my dog, 아이고 귀여워 우리 강아지. 자, 후후후후 고고싱. Woohoo! All the time, and he just looks at me like I'm mad. If I'm having a really hard day at work or at school, I'll be like, oh, 아이고. 또 공부해야 돼. 아이고. So that's probably the one I use the most. And I guess I like using 사투리 quite a lot. And say like 밥 먹었어?
사투리로 하면?
밥 먹나?
오빠 나 안 보고 싶어. 사투리로 하면?
오빠야, 내 안 보고 싶나? Which is from Busan area. I like using those ones quite a lot. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I wish you the best of luck on your journey to learning Korean. 화이팅 하세요. 안녕.
Most of the rain has tapered off as clouds head out toward the East Sea.
Yes, and thankfully clear skies are forecast for this weekend. Let's get more details from our Michelle Park at the Weather Center. Michelle.
Good evening, guys. Now most of the rain has cleared except on the east of Gangwon province, where it will continue to fall until the early morning hours. In addition, this region as well as the east and south coast are currently under strong wind and high seas alert, so please be cautious if you are in these areas. Now, Saturday's weather will be somewhat cloudy, but the temperature is expected to rise, making it nice weather for an outing. Now, Tokyo, however, can expect some rainy afternoon. Going over to our temperature readings for tomorrow, Seoul, Daegu, and also Gwangju will begin the morning at 17 degrees Celsius, and Chuncheon and Gyeongju will be cooler at 14 and 15 degrees, respectively. Now we'll see an increase of about 10 degrees as we head into our day tomorrow. So we'll mark up to 27 degrees by lunchtime, now with mostly similar conditions across the nation. Now, cloudy and hot weather is forecast for Sunday with the possibility of isolated showers due to the unstable atmosphere. But overall, the next few days are expected to stay hot and also very sunny. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That will wrap it up for this edition of Arirang News. Thank you as always for watching.
News in Depth is coming up next, so don't go away.